Okay, I've got my box glued up, and you notice the liner on the inside just fits perfectly. So the main thing you want to make sure with your box is that it's square while you're gluing it before the glue dries. Make sure it's perfectly square. Make sure that it's flat. And you notice I have this on a piece of melamine, which melamine covered shelf. This just a piece of melamine covered plywood or shelf that I know is flat. And that way I know my box, when I glue it up, is going to stay flat. And I can clamp it down to this melamine, while it's drying if I need to. And I don't need any clamps going this way. I've already tightened it up both directions to make sure that it's tight, but I don't need any clamps because my box joints will hold it together pretty good. Anyway, we'll stop right there and come back to this. Okay, I've taken a piece of plywood, just 3/4 inch scrap plywood, and I'm going to use it as a caul to glue this piece of veneer on here. This plywood I covered with felt. Doesn't matter what color it is, it's just felt. You can buy this stuff in Walmart real cheap. And covered that with wax paper to keep the glue from sticking to the caul. Okay, now I've laid out a square or rectangle where I want to glue my veneer, my inside piece of veneer. This is a piece of walnut burl, and I'm just going to glue it right on there. Okay, I'm just going to use regular white glue. It's Type Bond, type number 1. And some people will tell you should veneer with this stuff, and I've been doing it for 30 years and never had a problem with it. So get the glue spread out evenly. It doesn't matter if it overlaps a little bit. We'll put our veneer on there, our burl veneer. Okay. Cover it with the plywood that has the wax paper on it. I'm going to take another scrap piece of plywood on the bottom, and we're going to clamp it up. I'm going to use plenty of clamps. You have to have a lot of clamping on this stuff, on veneer. Otherwise, it won't lay down flat. Okay, we'll just let this sit for half an hour or so, an hour. Probably more like an hour. And then we'll continue on. Okay, I've taken it out of the caul. And I forgot to tell you the purpose of the felt. The purpose of the felt, it'll be a little bit more apparent later, but it's just to take up any variations in the thickness of the veneer and the bandings that we'll put on later. Anyway, I've already started this. What I'm going to do is put this veneer, or make a frame to go around the edges with this plain walnut veneer. And I've mitered the corners on just using a board that I made, and I laid out, this is just a scrap piece of board that I made, and I laid out with just a drafting triangle reference points for where I'm going to put the veneer in my knife to get a good miter. And I just cut this stuff with a razor knife. Put my rule, just a nice straight steel rule, and just square it off, and I've got a pretty close to being perfect miter. Now, these are 1 1/8, about 1 3/8 wide. And this area is about 1 3/8 wide. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue to cut these and miter them so that I make a frame, and then we're going to glue that on there. I'm going to, you notice that I have this taped with Scotch tape here, and after I get my frame adjusted correctly and cut, I'll replace this with veneer tape. And notice that I have some gaps in here, and that's okay because we're going to route the channels for the banding to fit in there. We'll route that later. This is complete and totally uncritical. I don't know if critical is a word, but I'm a wood craftsman, not an English major. Anyway, I'm going to just score these very lightly here so that I can get a good fit. Now I've scored them so I have a line that my knife will follow, so the knife will follow there pretty good. Like I said, this is not critical as to the size. You want your joints to be good and tight, but the size doesn't really matter at this point, as long as it's close. Alright, that's good. And if you need to adjust, you can adjust it with a little bit of sandpaper. Okay, that's going to be good. Okay, we're going to put veneer tape on here. I don't know if you've ever used veneer tape before, but veneer tape's the best thing to use on here. It comes off pretty easy. You notice I'm just licking it to get it to stick. And it actually, when veneer tape dries, it actually shrinks a little bit, so it'll pull the joint together nicely. Okay, I've got my frame made for this. And we're going to glue it on there using the same caul that we used before and some yellow glue. Now I want to take and sand this with some fairly coarse sandpaper. I'm using about 100 grit sandpaper because I probably got too much glue on there before. I want to get some of that glue off. Most of the area where this glue is right in here is going to be routed out for the channels for the banding later, so it probably won't make any difference anyway, but let's try to get some of that glue off of there. Okay, now we're going to glue this on here and put it in a caul and let it rest.